Do you never watch Fish Addictions TV?
So I'm a killer, Thor.
That's what I meant. I'm not. Jim and I have only kissed.
We all hope to have the bush at some point in our life, whether it's on the water or not.
Intense.
Like a goddamn circus fire.
And now, coming at you live from the Fish Addiction Studio, your hosts, Mike Olson and Thor Skoy, with Fish Addictions, The Real Talk.
What's up, guys? It's Mike and Thor here for another episode of The Real Talk. I have the jitters or something. I'm just like, we need to make these chairs so they don't do this.
If you take away my spinning chair, I'm walking out.
But what I really want to talk about is I watch you in that intro. Can they see us during the intro?
They cannot see us during the intro.
Because Thor's over here doing...
Yeah, I like the song. That's why I picked it. And it was free. The free was a big part.
I wish you guys could see Thor, how much he enjoys it. And, hey, we're kind of twinning today a little bit.
Fish Addictions Apparel.
Hey, this is a new one. So if you want a red
is.
Fish Addiction shirt, there it is. This has been around forever and one of my favorites.
Instant classics is what I like to call them.
They're comfortable and they're worn in. And
mine is not worn in. Mine is brand new.
it's because it's brand new for this year, Thor.
Yeah.
So, well, we got another great episode for you guys. We're going to have Tanner Cherney come on from Devil's Lake Tourism. And he actually just got back from
Wyoming.
We have not heard about it. I know that he shot a bull. There's horses involved, is what I hear.
Yeah.
And you guys have probably, if you don't know who Tanner is, you've probably seen his work because he's got a lot of his pictures and videos and that kind of stuff all over the outdoor world. It's not just fishing.
I don't know if he'd say it, but I'll say it. Photographer extraordinaire.
Yeah, I think we should try to get him to come take some pictures for us. I don't know if he'd do that for us or not. But
maybe.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of crazy. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but Tanner was one of the very first Fish Addictions pro staffers.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Way back in the day. He was actually a part of one of the windiest / scariest days I've ever had on the water. True story.
We're going to have to hear about that because for anybody that hasn't seen the footage, there's the AIM Championship on our TikTok, which I would have thought.
I will say that day prepared me for the AIM day.
Okay.
It was one of the preparation days. It was early on in my big boat extravaganza. I think it was the year I had my very first Warrior. I had owned big fiberglass boats before that, but no, I'm excited to talk to him. It's been a little while since we've chatted, and him and I always catch up once or twice a year and just kind of see what's going on.
Well, and with Devil's Lake, there's always a lot going on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But
with that, we should bring him in. Tanner Cherney, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going, buddy?
Great. How the heck are you guys?
We're good.
We're starting off a year. This is our season 2 of the podcast, second one of the year. We're trying to be more consistent because apparently people like what we have to say, and
algorithms love consistency.
I don't care about the algorithms. I care about what people like what we have to say, I guess.
Well,
that's his job to worry about the algorithms.
Yeah.
I can barely say algorithms.
It's a tongue twister, but I have to say I do enjoy your guys' podcast. So keep up the great work. It's been fun following along.
I appreciate it.
Thank
man.
you.
And I don't know if you just heard what we were talking about, but I was reminiscing a little bit about you were one of the first pro staffers to ever be on Fish Addictions.
That is correct. Gosh, how long ago was that, Mike? That seems like it's been quite some time now.
8 or 9 years.
I think you're right. It's time flies, I guess. But yeah,
I was crazy.
I was just thinking about that trip, and I had some flashbacks when you started talking about that windy day on Devil's Lake. Holy crap. That was, boy, did I pick the wrong clothes to have that day.
It was nasty. And I remember waking up that morning and being like, I'm not sure if we should go out. And everybody's like, we'll be fine. And we got out there just fine. But because we were tucked around in a corner, if my memory serves me right, we didn't really realize how bad it got.
I believe it was when we came around the corner and we had the Minnewacan Flats kind of rear its ugly faces when we realized how windy it really had picked.
Yes,
But
yes,
we did catch walleyes, so in the walleye
yes,
world,
we did.
all was good.
Well, and if we were be honest, Devil's Lake always has somewhere you can fish, no matter the wind. Always.
That that is something I always try to tell everyone. I mean, you get a lot of boat ramps around the body of water. The only wind I say that gets a little bit tricky is probably a south wind, but yet you still have got the casino you could launch at and shelter yourself. So that is one thing we're very fortunate that we
Yep.
can kind of tuck away and hide from that notorious North Dakota wind we get.
So before we start getting into Devil's Lake, because Devil's Lake is by far one of the most asked about destinations that we go to every year, and some people are always like, "Why do you do Devil's Lake every year?" Well, because it's so diverse. But I want to hear about this elk trip. You've been elk hunting for quite a while. Tell us a little bit about Tanner's elk trip.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my dad and I kind of got the big game bug here. Gosh, it's been probably 5, 6 years ago. We do a lot of waterfall upland hunting and deer hunting, but just never have really experienced a true Western hunt. And we decided to start to learn a little bit more about elk hunting. And over the course of the last 5 years, we've been very fortunate to be able to travel to a couple different places like Montana and Colorado. And heck, he drew the once in a lifetime North Dakota cow elk tag last year. So we were out in the Badlands and experienced that. But I was fortunate enough to get hooked up with an outfitter in Western Wyoming this last year and had a mountain goat hunt actually last year that I did out there. And that turned into kind of a cluster of just a lot of things that, which we all know when it's a fishing trip or a hunting trip, you have everything laid out in your mind how you want it to go, and it doesn't always necessarily go as planned. So it definitely didn't go as planned, but nevertheless, it was a fun and great experience. And I had some redemption I wanted to get in Wyoming after that first trip. So got connected with this outfitter, and yeah, it was southwest part of the state. And the cool thing is, it was a general unit tag, so it only took a couple points to draw. And that's the one thing that's so crazy this time, especially with point creep in the big game world, is if you're looking at doing these hunts, it's not as easy as a fishing trip to say, hey, let's go out there tomorrow or let's go next year. Like, you almost got to pre-plan these a couple years in advance just to have those points to draw that tag. So my dad did not have enough points. I did. And so we did a kind of a one-on-one guide where he tagged along as a follower and I was the lucky one with the tag. And we went out and it was a 5-day hunt in the backcountry. And it was one of those deals where you drive up, meet at base camp. You're allowed 50 pounds per person to bring on up on the horseback to the upper base camp. And I tell you what, you get to these hunting trips, and one of my favorite things is just the planning and like the writing down your list and just getting the amp up until you get to the actual hunt itself. And for the last couple months, I've been kind of have a room set up in my house where I put everything out, start staging it, get it all packed, and making sure that I'm not over that 50-pound weight limit, so that the mules are going up, that they can get what I need. And it was probably about 3-4 miles from the forest road where we rode up on horses to the upper camp. And it's one of those cool experiences where you get up there and you've got no cell service, there's no electricity, you're sleeping in a wall tent. And I tell you what, especially with a lot of things going on today, there's that hour and a half on horseback into camp. There was not a single thing that went through my mind other than, how's this hunt going to go this week? How's everything going to plan out? And it was one of those kind of mental escapes that you just all everyone needs every once in a while in the outdoors, especially, is a great place for that. And my dad had never been on horseback before, other than maybe when he was a little kid. So I was a little worried. Both him and I were very novice to that. And
Yeah.
everyone that has done horseback hunts or anything like that are like, if you're not as prepared as you think you are, you could be out of commission pretty quick just from the soreness and everything. And y- they are a huge asset. But I would agree. I mean, the first day I was a little sore, but um, the first night we got there, it was kind of great that we had a small camp. We had 4 total people in camp with us and a couple guides. And then, of course, a lot of these work out. You've got a cook, you've kind of got the wranglers that feed the horses. And we're sitting around the bonfire the first night cooking steaks. And it was really cool because all of a sudden we heard this crashing come through the woods. Well, lo and behold, here comes a cow and a calf moose, and they ended up about 15 yards from our campfire, just hanging around. No worry in the world. And it wasn't more than about 20 minutes later, this big bull Shiras moose comes out and is trying to nosing the cow around. And he ended up sticking around camp all night and actually ended up in the horse corrals, if you can believe that. They got up that next morning and it's like the funny part was we're like, all right, what time do we need to be up in the morning? Our guide was like, well, about 4:15, but he goes, you will not need an alarm because you cannot miss when we feed the horses in the morning. And he wasn't kidding. Like the ruckus they make, getting the horses riled up, kind of wrangled back into the corral. And then all of a sudden you hear them kind of making these funny noises. And here, yep, bull moose was sitting right next to the horses in there, not a care in the world, which was just odd and bizarre, but kind of all about the experience and really cool.
Yeah. So were you guys on horseback every day then? Or
We
did you
were.
spend once you rode in?
Once you rode in, pretty much everything from the upper camp was horseback out. There was a few of the wranglers that would run up to like some of the hilltops in the morning or evening and glass a little bit, but pretty much everything was via horse.
Okay. Did you keep track of how many miles you guys covered?
Well, this is going to be a quick story because when you typically go elk hunting, it's always 5 days and last day you shoot one. Well, going into the hunt the week before, they had really tough luck. There was a full moon, and we were just coming off of bugle season, which is the rut for elk. And they said everything was so quiet. They stayed up all night. And if you weren't on a bull by first light in the first 5 minutes of daybreak, if you didn't have a bull kind of in your sights, you were pretty much SOL throughout the rest of the day because they wouldn't come out till dark and you're chasing them in the dark timber. So the full moon had gone away, so our guide was very optimistic. He goes, this is kind of shaping up to be a good week. Temperatures are dropping. They're calling for rain, maybe a little snow up here in the elevations. And first morning we got up and rode into where he had actually had a hunter kill a bull last week or the week prior to that. And he goes, when we get into these openings, there's always elk I run into across here. And he goes, it's just a matter of timing it perfect. And of course, the first morning, if you can believe this, we're right about hour and a half in the dark, which was super cool. You've got the horseshoes on these horses going up these trails in the dark, and all you see is sparks flying off of them, hitting the rock. And then you look up, and the sky is just lit up with stars. And of course, I've got my camera, which is in my pack, not in my hand. And it's one of those tough things because I want to capture everything I can in the hunt, but yet I still want to be fully immersed in the hunt and not let that take away from it. But boy, if I could have had my camera out and take a few photos of the stars with the horses going through there, it would have been pretty amazing. And but yeah, we rode in about an hour and a half, ditched the horses and tied them up and started hiking, and probably put on about a mile is what we hiked that morning. And we got to a clearing, and it was about 30 minutes into daybreak, 30 minutes prior to shooting time. And Jeremy, our guide, looks out and he goes, there's actually elk out there right now just grazing. He goes, I would get ready because I can't tell if it's a bull or whatever. And about 20 minutes went past, and finally it got to be light enough and ended up being a cow and a calf. But in the background, you could hear a couple bulls just bugling away, which I don't know. Have you guys been elk hunting before?
I've
Never.
not.
No.
I've never really big game hunted at all, even whitetails, but I've always wanted to.
I tell you what, this is the one time I've actually got to experience the whole bugle thing, and it's as true as they say is how much it raises the hair on the back of your neck, and just hearing them scream. And so we heard a couple bulls bugle, and he goes, typically they've been leading the herd, and so he's like, I think we just need to move once these cows get away from us. And they were about 360 yards, and they fed away and finally hit over the top of the knoll and disappeared. So we had the thermals just perfect in our direction, and we took off, and we hiked about another 3/4 of a mile, which we probably covered in 5 minutes, but felt like 20 seconds at about 9,000 feet. I'm winded and sucking as much air as I can to try to keep my composure. And we get over to this other pine, and we get looking, and there's one little strip that's about 100 yards wide that's between two canyons, and it's just a flat top with grazing grass up on top. And Jeremy looks at me and he goes, oh my God, there's the bull right there. So he's like, he had already asked me earlier in the day how comfortable I was like for shooting, and I'm like 500 yards is about my top end. And he ranged and he goes, that bull's at 465. So we got set up with the tripod, and I tell you what, this bull would just cruise back and forth on this ridge top, and it was maybe 30 seconds, but this time it felt like 10 minutes. And he was chasing and tailing cows, and finally he turned his head and started to walk and just stopped enough where I could see his vitals, and it was a really big bull. And he goes, all right, I think you got a shot opportunity. So ended up getting settled in, and when I pulled my trigger, all I heard was click. And I'm like, oh God, what just happened? So I look at him, I look at the gun. He's like, jack another shell inside, take it out, ram another one in. To this day, I don't know what happened, if it was the shell, if it was the gun. Don't think it was the gun because it worked literally 2 minutes later. And this bull darted off the hill and took a bunch of cows with him. We tried to get him back, and he's like, I just don't think he's going to. I think he goes, big bulls like that get big for a reason. They're too smart. They never stop. They know what they're doing. They get lucky. And it was about 3 minutes later, one of the satellite bulls ended up coming down the saddle, a nice 5x5, and literally stopped right where he did. And I look at him, I look back, and he goes, there you go. And I settled in, and all I remember was slowly pulling the trigger, hearing the gun go off, and before I could even get back down onto the bull, all I heard was Jeremy go, holy crap, you dropped him. You got him. And the rest just like, that was, yeah.
That's awesome.
That does make it. That sounds like a blast.
Thor's actually got a picture of your bull pulled up right
I
here.
do.
He'll put it somewhere in here.
Yep, it'll be on the thumbnail, and it'll be in the podcast here.
Well, congratulations, man. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you. And the best part about it was my dad was literally standing right over my shoulder as it all went down. So it'll be a memory.
You'll have to do it with him next year.
Oh, exactly. I mean, that afternoon, our outfitter was like, all right, Wayne, you need to start applying for points here, because now you guys got to do the flip-flop in a couple of years when you draw this tag. And I'm like, 100%. It's fun, and it's just one of those experiences that no matter how it ever goes, like, you can never take it for granted, and just got to enjoy every aspect of it.
It's really cool that you and your dad it's kind of your thing, right? Because you've kind of done this now, like you said, 4 years. It's kind of you and your dad's thing that you do together, and that's pretty cool.
It is. And to add on to that, the cool part is I'm looking forward to it here. It's in a couple weeks, North Dakota gun season opens, and he's been applying for 5 years, and he drew a Western North Dakota mule deer tag. So
nice.
Hopefully he gets to have a little fun with that this fall. And yeah, it's been fun to be able to do that with him.
So what happens for the next 4 days? You just get to enjoy camp or what?
Well, so what we did is it took all day to break the bull down. We had the packer come up with the mules, which this was the other elk hunts I've been on that we were successful with. You put it on your frame pack, and haul it back down, where this was felt like it was the cat's meow with having a mule take the weight down and everything. Yeah. But we got there, and we actually spent the next day at camp, but it was still pretty warm at about 6,000 feet. And there was a lot of blowflies starting to show their ugly face. So we opted to get the heck out of Dodge and get back into town and get our meat on dry ice, because it's like we've got 200 pounds of meat here that we do not want to spoil. So we cut it a couple days short and made our way back to North Dakota and kept everything cool.
Cool. Well, that's an awesome experience. Thanks for sharing that with us, for sure. That's something I'm going to do. I mean, every year you say I'm going to do it and you don't do it, but you just got to buckle down and say I'm going.
And that it actually leads to a question that I have for both of you, because you're both very passionate about the things that you do, whether it's hunting, fishing, photography, taking the kids out. Everybody talks about fall because it is, I would say it's the best season of the year, right? Because you can hunt, you can fish, you do whatever, and everything, like the fish go crazy. How do you pick and choose what you're going to do? Because you only have so much time, between chasing fall walleyes that are putting on feed bags, getting deer camps ready, pheasant hunting, grouse hunting. How do you pick what you're going to do?
I mean, for me, it's more, deer hunting, big game hunting, there's certain set times you can do it. So if you're going to do it, you have to do it within there. But it also opens opportunities, because let's face it, if you're a fisherman, more likely you hunt some way, whether it's upland game,
Mhm.
big game, ducks. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think it's just prime time for guys like us that just love to be outside. You know, I love fishing. That's why I do what I do.
Right.
But I love hunting just as much. If I could have it all wrapped in one thing, I would do it. But, you know, it's more about, it's a hard thing because sometimes I find myself sitting in the deer stand wondering what the walleyes are thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and that it's a question that I think about often where, you know, so Tanner, how do you choose what you're going to do, especially living in the mecca that is Devil's Lake?
It's so tough. I mean, I love hunting and I love walleye fishing. And actually, I grew up doing a lot of waterfowl hunting, and I've kind of phased myself out of that over the last probably 7 years because he's 8 years old now. I've got a yellow lab and Gage, and he's a great duck dog, but I would much rather walk behind him in an upland field chasing roosters. And to that point, if I even get a bird, it doesn't matter, but he gets a flush, he gets a point. But you're right. It's, you know, you get those beautiful fall days and it's tough to say, do I go drop the boat in? Do I go chase some birds? Do I go sit in the tree stand? And you almost got to play it with, you know, if it's going to be a really nice day, I'm going to go sit on the water. But if it's going to be crappy, I guess I'm going to go buckle down and go do a little hunting, because it seems like the crappier the day, the better the hunting usually is. So it's always a flip of the coin on what's going to be the choice.
So I look at it like this. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 100%. So as the hunting and the fishing and, you know, waterfowl and big game and upland hunting and all this kind of stuff, it was like I had to decrease one of them to give it my all for the other two.
Right.
You know, so if I was gonna, for lack of better terms, half-ass it on all three of them, I'd rather do two of them than give it not the full attention that I felt it needed to have. You know, that's kind of how bow hunting. I love bow hunting.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have the time to give it 100%.
Right.
So I don't want to go in and ruin my rifle hunting, not doing the bow hunting correctly and because I do all that on the same land that I own. So I think to each its own. You know, if you're okay going out there and just being out there, I'm kind of a killer. So if I'm not going to be successful at what I'm doing, it's tough. It's tough mentally for me if I don't feel like I've done everything to put it in my favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking like even this weekend specifically, because last week I went and picked up the new Fish Addictions trailer, so I didn't get out pheasant hunting. Yeah, I spoiled it. So I didn't get out pheasant hunting, so I really want to go this weekend, but I also really want to go see where my fall smallmouth are, and I don't know that I can do both of them in the same weekend.
I'll tell you, if I had to choose between bass fishing and pheasant hunting, I'd go pheasant hunting.
Yeah, but when's the last time you went pheasant hunting?
Yeah,
because that's
in this pandemic.
In this pandemic.
I think the simple solution to it is fall is the perfect time of the year, but man, if we could just have like 4 more hours of daylight,
yes.
we'd be set.
Thank you.
We were just talking about how we're both really struggling to adapt to the fact that it is dark now at what, 8?
7:30.
7:30, and it feels way later than it should be. But yeah, because
God is a cruel thing.
Yeah. So
our favorite time of year. There's just no time to do anything. You get up and it's dark already.
Yeah. So Tanner, everybody knows Devil's Lake has phenomenal walleye.
Hold on. I just got some pictures from my deer camera. Let's check it out.
The spy point coming in clutch. Maybe.
Don't worry, it's only a small 4x4.
All
We're
right.
okay. Okay.
Do you run spy point, Mike?
I run spy point and the Browning ones. I'm kind of running both of them right now. So I like them both for different reasons. So, but spy point's been all right for me.
Well, you and I might have to talk one day because I work with spy point.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm actually going deer hunting with my kids this weekend because it's youth opener. and we just got all the batteries charged on the cameras. We're gonna film the whole thing.
The
Beautiful.
first Fish Addictions hunting video.
Because people need to know that I like to hunt just as much as I like to fish.
I agree. So everybody knows Devil's Lake has some of the best walleye fishing in the world. Some of the best.
Do they though? I don't think we've said it enough.
Oh, okay. You want me to say it again?
Devil's Lake has some of the best walleye and perch fishing in the world.
Okay. Perfect. We got it.
Okay.
But that's not all there is to Devil's Lake, and that's why I really wanted to have you on the show, was to talk about the different things that you can do in and around Devil's Lake, whether it's, there's phenomenal pike fishing. There is, from what I've been told, some really good pheasant hunting. There's a lot of deer hunting around there. There's a lot of waterfowl hunting. Can you just kind of talk about those things around Devil's Lake a little bit?
I personally know a few guys that have caught their limit of walleyes and shot their limit of pheasants in the same day out there recently.
Oh, if only I liked walleye fishing.
Oh, yes. It is a pretty dang good mecca for a lot of those things. Growing up,
God,
like you said,
God made bass, so you actually catch fish if you're a bass fisherman. Just had to put that in there. Sorry, Tanner.
Are we doing
I love it.
No.
I love it. The bass walleye thing's always going to be an ongoing war.
The Minnesota AIM Championship was won by a bass fisherman this year.
That switched to walleye fishing because bass were too easy, I think. Okay, sorry, Tanner. Go ahead.
Hey, that's all right. But yeah, there is a lot of different options, like you said. Obviously we're known for the walleye fishing up here, which has been phenomenal and still seems to be just kicking out fish left and right. But yeah, there are a lot of things that we do have a great pike fishery here. Not a lot of people actually come up here and target them, which is very surprising because the lake itself does have some true opportunities at for North Dakota standards, some trophy size northern pike.
Anywhere standards.
Yeah.
Very true. And to go along with that, if we're going to be talking about bass, the white bass fishing up here, if you're looking to get kids on the water and have a fun day and just get hook sets in, or even for the mom and dad that are going out there, I mean, at the end of the day, your arm could be very sore from pitching jigs or different crankbaits and things into those swarms of white bass schools that you'll see boiling on top of the water throughout the season. But yeah, when we move into fall, our whitetail hunting up here is really good. The one thing that we have ran into in years is just the habitat, but the lake itself, we've got, if you look at any pictures of Devil's Lake with the flooded timber and things like that, there are timbered areas around our region, I guess you could call it, that do seem to hold some pretty dang good whitetail. It's a little bit different style of hunting up here, as you guys probably are used to, whether it's northern Minnesota with tree stands and things where you may have to deploy either ground blinds or even what I kind of like to do is the spot and stock, which gets to be tricky. Have learned a lot with that with western bow hunting in the western part of the state. But the other thing that obviously we're very well known for is our fall waterfowl hunting, and right in the heart of the Central Flyway here. One thing that's really great, especially on years like this when we do have drought conditions, is a lot of the potholes may dry up here or there, but we do still have a 140,000 acre lake that holds a lot of birds throughout the season. And the thing that kind of tags along with that is not only does it hold birds, but it's also the last thing to freeze up when we go into November. So the last flight of north birds that come through usually will hold in our area a lot longer than some other areas, just because we do have that water and I guess you could call it resting area for them in the evenings. And then, yes, Thor, the other thing is pheasant hunting. That is a kind of a little known thing in our area, just because when you think North Dakota and you think pheasant hunting, you're always thinking that southwest region of the state is kind of the mecca for that. But the beautiful thing is we've got a lot of great opportunities, whether it's, our Game and Fish has these awesome things called plots. And, growing up around here, I could go within about a 90-mile drive. So, I mean, hour and a half drive from my house in the morning and get on to good pheasant hunting. It did take a little time just to kind of learn the areas on where you're finding the roosters coming out to pick stones. And a lot of them are concentrated areas where you might have 30 or 40 birds in a couple square miles. and kind of being cognizant of trying not to shoot out every bird that fall so that there's still stuff for the next year and reproduction. But yeah, there are a lot of good opportunities like that. And, we have a local Pheasants Forever chapter, and I do believe they do some releasing in some of these areas throughout the lake region itself. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for the outdoorsman and outdoorswoman. There's just so many different things to do when it's this time of year up here.
Well, I personally would like to just talk fishing in Devil's Lake. You guys have a lot of stuff to do. One thing I do want to hit is if you're an outdoorsman and you go to a place like Devil's Lake, talk to someone like Tanner and stuff, because if you're out on the water and let's say it's too windy, there are other things for outdoorsmen to do all over the place. And I will say, I think we get to travel all over the ice belt, all over the upper Midwest fishing and hunting. And there isn't, I will say this very confidently, there is not a city or a region set up for the outdoorsman anywhere near what Devil's Lake is. When you roll into town, that city is made for you. Everything you need is in town, whether it's a restaurant, a bait shop, a hunting. If you need shells, you need a cleaning facility, you need the ramps, hotels of all sorts, whether you want to do a hotel or a cabin or a B&B or any, there is no city in the United States that I have visited that is set up as well as you guys are.
We've been very fortunate that especially our community and business community alike has realized the impact of tourism on the area and have opened the doors and rolled out the red carpet. And you're talking about a place that 15 years ago did not necessarily have a lot of hotel options and has exploded with that. But even to tag along with that, there are a couple hotels that not only did they put their own fish cleaning stations in, but also dog kennels for duck hunters and pheasant hunters that come to town. So there's just been a lot of great ways that this community has opened their doors to the outdoorsmen coming into town and realizing how lasting of an impact it is on a community our size.
Another thing about Devil's Lake is Devil's Lake fishing season, unlike a lot of places, never closes. So North Dakota, it's open, it's year round. If you're in a lull time of your season, you can still go throw the boat in, catch a limit of walleyes, catch the white bass, the pike, the perch all year long, which it seems funny because we know that. We fish there, we know it. But the people that are listening to this maybe don't know that.
It blew my mind when I moved up here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't know that simple thing, which we take for granted.
And even now I forget it. Like, well, before the Minnesota walleye season opens and I'll be going back to visit family in central Minnesota, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go walleye fishing or whatever. I'm going to fish from the bridge. I'm like, oh, yeah, you literally can't do that right now.
You've been spoiled in North Dakota.
Yeah, like put it on Facebook. Like, anybody know of a good walleye bite on the river right now? And then immediately just have to put your foot in your mouth because you're like, oh, season's closed.
Well, Devil's Lake is one of my favorite places to be. I have a camper. We camp out there all summer. But one question that I'm getting, which I would love for you to answer, is what's the, there's so much speculation with water levels changing. It's a fact. It's just they're changing. What are the outlooks for you guys in fishing? I have my own theory, but I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking.
Yep. So, we've been down now, what is it, 4.5, 5, upwards of 6 feet over the peak of the flooding here back in about 11, 12. And, it's interesting to watch these netting numbers that come out every year just to see. And this year, they were saying that 15 to 18-inch walleye was probably one of the better years that they've seen. And I think as the water is going down, if it trends that way, I think we're going to have good fishing for probably the foreseeable 5-10 years, just because you're going to have that water condensing and those fish are just going to be concentrated in so much smaller areas that you have a little bit better odds at targeting them and maybe getting on them. But I think what's going to be the tall tale sign is just going to be, back in the 80s and stuff, when that was just a little slough and the alkalinity in the lake was so high and nothing really survived per se. I'm curious to see how that affects as we do get smaller, and if the water quality, I guess would be the right way to say it, water quality changes for the reproduction. Because I think the true thing that's going to be a predicament of how the future is going to go is if the walleye can still keep naturally reproducing without any added benefit to them. Yeah, added help.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fishery that absolutely amazes me. And actually, one of my favorite things over the last 8 years as the water is fluctuating is a lot of people always tell me, like, man, Devil's Lake is so awesome. You just go out there and catch fish. Actually, what I've found is every year you have to relearn the lake because things are happening, things are changing, fish are moving. And that's one of my favorite parts about it is you don't go out there and it's just the stale, I know the fish are going to be here. It's, I'm going to have to switch things up just a little bit this year where, 2000, well, before the high years, slip bobbering was giant, right? Everett slip bobbering was king. And
Yep.
not that you couldn't catch fish slip bobbering throughout all those years, but slip bobbering is becoming king again. And because it's just you're concentrating those fish a little bit more, they're in different areas. It's just kind of a cool transition of how I used to fish it to where I fished it, and now I'm going back to how I used to fish a lot out there, and it's just kind of a cool thing. And my personal experience is I've seen a lot of everywhere out there is the fishery is still very strong. I'm seeing a higher catch ratio of bigger fish because 3 years ago there was a lot of 11 to 13 inch fish in the system, a ton. There was no way around it. You caught a ton of them. But what I also see is the fish in Devil's Lake more than anywhere else that I've fished are concentrated in size schools, like the size of fish school themselves. So the little tip, if you're at Devil's Lake and you're catching 15 to 16, 17 inches and you want to catch 20 inches or 28 inches, move. Not that you won't ever catch them in there, but I found myself way more successful. If you find a big fish, you'll find multiple big fish.
I agree 100% to that, Mike. I even experienced that myself this year just because I was fortunate to fish a few other reservoirs and stuff. And I noticed where you'd be on those bodies of water and you could sit there for an hour and you'd catch 10-inch walleyes, 20-inch walleye. I mean, it was just a smorgasbord, but it very well holds true on Devil's Lake here. If you're catching 15s, that's the class of fish you're going to be in. But one thing I want to add to that is noticing some of these fish compared to some other fisheries, they are pretty dang healthy and chunky when you get to that size too.
I've heard rumors that the fish in Devil's Lake, because of how fertile the water is with the freshwater shrimp and all the forage they have, that they're dang near 20% faster growing fish as far as weight wise. I mean, your 20-inch walleye is probably a year younger in Devil's Lake than it is in almost any other body of water. And I may be wrong, but we talk to a lot of people, you hear a lot of things. That's just something I've heard over the course of all these years of fish addictions and talking to all these different people. I believe it. I mean, you catch a 20, 25-inch fish and it's heavier there than pretty much anywhere you're going to catch another 25-inch fish.
It is amazing. And kind of talking about the water levels, I think the one thing that's going to be interesting over the next couple of years is you're going to run into places that might be like a new mill bay or predominantly a pretty popular fishing spot that might be a little bit trickier to get into, but there's going to be fish in there. And it's going to be the tactic of how do you get into those areas now? And do you bring a kayak with and deploy that over the little bit of water you got? Or because there is going to be some honey holes, I think, that are going to hold some of these fish that may never see a lure throughout the season.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's such a big body of water. Talk about that. I mean, there's so many opportunities in Devil's Lake for somebody that has maybe been there once or twice or never been there. Talk about some of the opportunities that they're going to get in Devil's Lake that maybe they don't get, whether it's Graham's Island State Park or that kind of stuff. I mean, talk about all that stuff because there's a lot of people that Devil's Lake, when they think of Devil's Lake and they see the pure size of it, they're a little intimidated.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even when I grew up there, I was intimidated, but after learning it a little bit, we're talking 140 to 160,000 acres per se. The one thing we're very fortunate of is we have a handful of public access boat ramps throughout the whole system, like we were talking earlier. So, wind conditions aren't necessarily a major factor. They can be, but you know what? They're free. They're great. We have free fish cleaning stations throughout the whole system at a lot of those boat ramps, and an indoor heated and cooled one that's really a unique selling feature to the community that's located right in town by Ed's Bait Shop. It's open year round. So you're talking about getting off the water on a rainy day, or it's 95 degrees, or you're coming off the ice at 30 below. You've got a climate controlled place to clean your fish, and it's free to use. But yeah, when it comes to the whole lake itself, there's a lot of cool areas. Grams Island State Park is probably one of the busiest state parks in North Dakota. And for anyone that's never been out there before, it's not your true central North Dakota experience. Like you'd expect a state park to be kind of out in the middle of a prairie. Well, you get here off of Highway 19, it's about a 5 mile drive in, and it's almost this little island oasis of just a bunch of trees, very well sheltered. They built the new bait shop and visitor center out there, I believe, about 5 years ago or so. They've got a 4-lane boat ramp. They've got their own fish cleaning station, and they've got various little outbuildings that anyone can rent for family reunions, or if you want to have your own little fishing tournament, things like that. So there's a lot of cool features there. And then throughout the whole system itself, I mean, you've got, I think at one time I heard it was something around 2,000 seasonal campsites and a handful of resorts that all have tent sites to hotel lodging to your regular 1 or 2 bedroom cabins to upwards of a mega cabin that you can host your whole family or a bunch of guys on a guy trip or a bachelor party, whatever it may be. And then you get to looking for some things that you can do off the water. We have White Horse Hill, which is one of those cool places that's south of town on Highway 57, and it's a national game preserve. And for those that probably don't know this, and I didn't know it until I was working the Northwest Sports Show here a few years ago, and someone told me the fact that it was actually a national park. And I believe it was Theodore Roosevelt that had put it as a national park for, I don't know if it was a full year, but ended up turning into a national game preserve afterwards. But just a really cool place out there where they've got an auto tour. If you got kids up for your trip and you kind of got, laked out and you wanted to go do a little exploring, you've got a herd of elk out there, deer, prairie dog town. There's hiking trails. There's a visitor center. There's just a lot of great things. And if anyone that's been to Devil's Lake in the last probably 5 to 10 years, and you haven't been there in a year, you might want to take a stroll downtown, because we did have the fortunate opportunity through a couple grants to do a little spruce up of our downtown. And we've got new streetscapes and sidewalks and facades. And it's just a kind of a popping little community with new restaurants and things popping up here that have changed a lot in the last couple of years.
Oh, it's fun because a lot of my friends, a lot of people from out of town and stuff, they're like, well, I'd like to bring my wife. Well, it's the perfect place if you want to go fishing all day to have your wife and a friend or whatever go and just hang out. There's so much to do, whether they want to go grab a drink or they want to go the different resorts or like you said, the restaurant scene is there. Everything's there in Devil's Lake. And
there's a ton of like boutique shopping downtown too, right?
Yes.
There is. And we've got the golf course right out on the lake itself, 18-hole, beautiful 18 holes out there. And the cool thing about the golf course this year is, they've got a bar and restaurant, or bar, and you can order bar food there. But they did put in, and I want to say it's 8 spots, but a floating dock in. So if you're out fishing for the day and you wanted to take a quick little break and go grab a beverage and get some food in you, you don't even have to dock your boat up and pull it off the trailer. You could just pull up right to the floating dock, walk up to the clubhouse, order your food, and away you go. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for things to do when you are off the water.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of like this time of year, like guys that are thinking about doing a hunting trip. But you could go to somewhere like Woodland where they offer duck hunts and guided walleye hunts this time of year. You could probably do a half a day each type thing. I mean, it's just I've said it so many times that I almost take it for granted that there is no other city that I've ever been to that is set up for the sportsman like you guys are. And kudos to you guys, because it takes a whole community to make what you guys have had out, what you guys have got out there. You have world-class fishing, world-class hunting. You have a city that caters to everything outdoors and welcoming. When you come there, like people understand that you're there for vacation, and that I think that's super important.
Absolutely. You can only have so many amenities that you can provide to people, but you also have to have that aspect of you always call it North Dakota nice, but the friendliness and the accommodating people to go along with that, because that's kind of the lasting impression. And the cool thing is, we always talk about tourism and economic development. Well, tourism's the number one driver for a lot of economic development. And it's been really cool to see the amount of people that have taken trips to Devil's Lake and decided to either go to college there or relocate and move their family there, start businesses. So it's been cool to see all aspects.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so marching into ice season. I know we're in fall and people are thinking deer hunting, but whether we want it or not, ice season is right around the corner.
I think we're supposed to have our first hard freeze tonight.
No, but I'm excited for ice season actually. But let's get through deer season first. But so another cool thing is Devil's Lake is one of those few opportunities that offers you whatever type of fishing you want. And talk about ice fishing in general, because there are so many people that ice fish, so many people that hear about Devil's Lake, sell these ice fishermen Devil's Lake. I personally, before you start, I think there's going to be another good perch bite going on. The walleyes are going. A new thing that's happened over the last 3-4 years, 5 years, is people are starting to target more white bass. And the pike fishing, you can spear, you can tip up, you can do all that kind of stuff. And like we've talked, I think Devil's Lake is a hidden pike gem, really is what it is right now, until it blows up, which one day it's gonna.
Absolutely. And so to start this off, the first thing I love to say is, in North Dakota, we're very fortunate that we can run 4 lines in the winter, which is a selling piece right there because of the tip ups, dead sticks, whatever you're running. You've got the ability to run a plethora of different options out there. But when we talk summer fishing, the beautiful thing about walleyes is they bite all day long. Well, in winter, the great thing that we have going on is you can fish all day. You've got, your morning and evening walleye bites that are always those first light, last light kind of deals. And then the transition in from that is you can fill your day out with jumbo perch fishing. And, we always like to call that the run and gun style hole hopping. But, I always think what better way to spend a Saturday than get up sunrise, punch a couple holes, catch your limit of walleyes, drive out to the perch spot and just start busting your butt and trying to catch a few perch. And then if you don't have your walleyes filled out for the day, as the sun starts to set and those perch kind of turn off, you move in shallow and chase the walleye. But you can come out here and you can mark spots, you can find structure, and you're not dealing with the wind and waves, and it just gives you that ability to learn the lake that much better, and it almost gives you a step up when you're going into the following spring and summer. But yeah, there's a lot of options for guys that are coming into town. If you are looking for guided trips, we've got everything from your just basic ice house rentals where people will pull the ice house out, drill your holes, and you just go sit there and heck, bring a cooler and you're just going to enjoy the day. And or you've got the whole fully guided experience with snow bears, which is kind of the cool thing that's really taken off the last couple of years, where it's the run and gun style of fishing, but you're not dealing with the portables, and you get into a snow bear for the day and you're in climate controlled warm weather, just beautiful kind of style of fishing. And then you've got the portable style of fishing where a lot of guides are running that too. So there are a lot of different options, but I think it's one of those very few places in the upper Midwest where you have that true opportunity at probably catching the biggest perch of your life that you could. I mean, I know a few places that have equivalent perch fishing, but they're few and far between. And it's one of those deals where it never gets old. When you watch the screen on your flasher and all of a sudden that fish bites and you set the hook and you're thinking, oh God, I got a good walleye on here, and you gets to the bottom of the ice and you're like, holy crap, that's a freaking perch. So it's one of those deals where
know if anybody watched 2 years ago, we did a trip of a lifetime, and that perch is on the wall. We brought a guy in from New York.
I think, what about the one right over my shoulder too?
That was a North Dakota perch.
Yeah.
If you can see the one behind me, that's a Devil's Lake perch.
There's a few of them.
But perch fishing is not for the faint of heart. You said it right. You got to drill holes and you got to move with them. But yeah, sorry to cut you off. I remember the trip of a lifetime that we did with Bry's Guide Service out of there, which is one of the guide services, and that was pretty incredible experience for us and for an angler that had never been to Devil's Lake before.
Absolutely, and it's one of those deals where even like to go back to elk hunting last 2 weeks ago, the wrangler was I think he was from Northern Illinois, and we got to talking, and the first thing I said was, I'm from Devil's Lake, and he goes, oh my God, we need to connect. I've been wanting to go up there and chase jumbo perch for the last couple of years. So it's cool the places you go and you hear about people that you wouldn't expect maybe aren't familiar with Devil's Lake, but really are. And I think that's the big driver. I mean, there are a lot of great walleyes taken throughout the ice season. But the perch fishing is what everyone, we go to the different sport shows, Fargo Ice Show, St. Paul Ice Show, different things like that. And I would say 9 times out of 10, when someone poses a question about fishing, it's about perch.
Yeah. I mean, it's famous for its perch. There's no doubt about that. What Devil's Lake, there's also opportunities if you're at Devil's Lake. It's got tributaries to the north. It's Stump Lake. It's got a lot of other options. So if you want to go for 4 or 5 days and you're like, hey, I want to fish more than just Devil's Lake, there are other options as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've got Stump Lake, you've got Devil's Lake itself, and you've got a lot of the chain lakes up north. And it's one of those things too, where our ice season, it seems like, starts almost a couple weeks before a lot of places, just because there's been years where it's Thanksgiving weekend.
Wait, it's his job to sell tourism.
See, I couldn't tell if that was a shh or if that was a microphone interference.
I got it.
Oh shoot. But yeah, it's one of those deals where I've known people that'll be on the main lake fishing out of a boat, and they've got a buddy up north ice fishing, and they go, who can get their limit first? Like, we've got a very unique, diverse fishery here with just depth variance that allows some of those spots to lock up a lot sooner when we're talking to hard water.
And flip it, in the spring, it's the same thing. You can be fishing the channels and ice fishing same day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we've all done it when we're from around here. So it's just a really cool, unique place. And all I got to say is if you've thought Devil's Lake and you want to know more about it, contact us or Devil's Lake Tourism or Tanner directly. But one thing, Tanner, I want to say is you're kind of doing, you used to be part of Fish Addictions. You used to work directly for Devil's Lake Tourism, but you're kind of doing your own thing now, aren't you?
Yes. So I've actually got my own company called Peak Productions, which is a photo/social media company. And as we all know in the outdoor world, if you want to make it, you can't just really do one thing. You've kind of got to have your hands in a lot of different things. So I've been fortunate to still work with Devil's Lake on their outdoor media relations and, helping with all the fishing reports and working with the shows. And then I've been very fortunate to have a couple clients that I get to do different photo shoots with. And then, like we were talking earlier, the newest one is working with Spy Point, the trail cameras, and helping them with their I'm overseeing their ambassador program and then helping run their social media as well. So it's one of those deals where no 2 days are ever the same, and you get to meet so many cool people in the industry. And the more you get to know it, everyone is only out there to help everyone. And it's just, I tell you what, once you get into the fishing and hunting industry, it's so tough to leave because the people you work with are so great. And it's fun to see the innovation that's going on. I mean, it's just like, how can products get better? But yet every year continuously, it's cool to see what people are coming up with and how we can only make ourselves better out there.
Right. It's such a fun industry to be a part of. And that's why, I mean, personally, I'm knocking on 10 years of being a part of the industry, and it's really, really cool and really fun. And sometimes I take a step back because what we do is not easy. What I'm doing is I'm traveling, I'm putting 20,000+ miles on a winter. And when you have a family and everything like that, but the friendships is something I'm just not willing to give up. The people you meet, the people that you have met, the new people we're going to meet, the friends we make, the people that are, like the stuff that we put out, which is so awesome. And it makes it's a big community, but a small community. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's almost like an extended family. It's like when we get to sports show season, we love working there because we get to talk about, Fish Addictions and Devil's Lake to all the potential customers. But yet it's almost like it's a reunion every year we go back, and you get to see the people you maybe see once or twice a year. But it's like you pick up right where you left off, and it's one big family at the end of the day, I think.
Absolutely. That's what I love about it.
And this year's are going to be crazy with no shows last year.
Oh, yeah. It feels like it's been 10 years since we've had an outdoor show. It does. It really just, I was thinking about that the other day because I'm one of the 2 guys that started the Fargo Ice Fishing Show, and we didn't get to have it last year. And it was a very stressful thing. We're going to have it this year. We're in North Dakota, so it's happening no matter what. Just so anybody that's out there wondering, Fargo Ice Fishing Show is happening. We're in North Dakota, man. We're not shutting it down. But it feels like forever, and it's going to be fun to get back to these shows. Like you said, it's like a giant family reunion. We've seen each other on social media. We've maybe seen a few, out and about, but it hasn't been the same. It just hasn't been the same.
It hasn't, and it's one of those things. Like I strive for that interaction because I feel like that makes us better in our profession, but it brings that sense of humility back to everything we do, and being able to have conversations with guys like you and anyone else that you get to be able to interact with. It makes it feel like you're not on an island out there, and everyone's out there kind of with the same goal in mind of getting more people outdoors, getting people, kids hooked on this special thing that we do, we love so much. And they're truly the people that we're going to hopefully keep this passion going for many years past what we can.
Absolutely. And tell Susie hi from us.
Oh, I will do that.
For a while. Hi,
it's
Susie.
probably been a couple years.
Yeah, it has been ever since shows and that kind of stuff. So, but I think this is a good place to wrap it up. I think if people haven't gone to Devil's Lake, it's one of my favorite destinations. I spend more time there than anywhere else, and it's just a special place. Whether you're a hunter or a fisherman or somebody that just likes to be outdoors, like you said, you got the parks, you've got basically everything and anything you want out there. And it was good to talking to you again, man. It's been too long this end. We usually touch base 2-3 times a year, and it's an excuse that we use too much, but we've all gotten really busy.
No, it's been too long, and I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been good to catch up, and I think we'll have to do this a little more often. It's one of those things where it's fun to stay in touch and be able to see what you guys are doing, and if there's any ways we can help each other and all that, it works out wonderful.
So if you guys got any questions for Tanner or about Devil's Lake, send them our way. If I can't answer them, we'll reach out to Tanner. I'm sure Tanner can get the answers for you, or you can reach out straight to the guys right there at Devil's Lake Tourism. And
we'll have their website in
we'll put the link
description
somewhere in here or in the description.
Yeah.
Why can't we put it like here?
Because they can't click on the video. If they click on the video, it pauses it.
Yeah, don't click on the video. I don't want you to pause it.
So the link for the Devil's Lake Tourism page will be in the description.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate for joining us. Congratulations on your elk, man. And that's pretty cool. You get to share it with your dad, and hopefully you guys have a lot more memorable trips. Good luck to your dad out mule deer hunting this few weeks. It's not very far away anymore.
No, it's coming in quick, but thank you so much. And thank you for allowing me to tell the story of it. It means a lot. And it's one of those things
cool.
I just want to end it with, if you have the ability to take your family, whether it's your mom or dad or, any of your family, if you can still do that, I think you got to take advantage of it while you can, and hope that you guys have a great hunting season and start to the hardwater season, which at this pace seems like it'll be here sooner than later.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man, and we'll talk to you later, and happy hunting.
Same to you guys.
See you later.
Have a good one.
That's really cool that he joins us. Tanner and I go way back. It was one of those things when Fish Addictions first started. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, I really love the outdoors," and that was before Devil's Lake, that kind of stuff. And you could tell that he always had the passion for pictures and doing that kind of stuff. And he really loved the region he lived in, which was Devil's Lake, obviously. And it turned into a profession for him. So that's really cool to have him on. It's good to catch up. It's one of those things that, we are making excuses that we don't touch base with people more than as often as we should. And that was really good. It was fun to catch up. I was really excited for him and that elk. I would seen it on social media and stuff, so I was kind of intrigued to talk to him about it.
Yeah.
And
So and back to being able to share the hunt with his dad, that was really cool. And looking forward into this week or weekend, you were going hunting with your kids.
Yeah.
Is your dad coming with this time?
No, so my dad
is he busy?
If people don't know, my dad has been going through some pretty bad cancer over the last few years. He just had a pretty big operation, and Not going to be able to go this weekend. We're hoping that he's well enough to go in 2 weeks when the main season starts. But one of his biggest passions was taking my kids out. It's something we'll never forget and something he'll never forget. Both my kids shot their first deer with him sitting next to him, and it's pretty cool. I'm sure Thor will throw some pictures in there. I know Abby talked about that on this podcast with us last year a little bit. We haven't convinced Jake to come on and actually talk to us yet.
I was just, my next thing that I was going to say was, I'm really hoping that this weekend's hunt goes well so that we have Jake and Abby on as our guests next week so that they can share their stories again.
Well, if the spy point is not lying to us, the food plots are full of deer.
Good.
So as long as they can be quiet and everything, it's going to go great.
Yeah.
It's deer hunting. What could go wrong, right?
Right.
Oh, gosh. And I want to thank all you guys for being on and watching and listening to this podcast. If you're listening to it, you can watch it on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you can catch it where?
On Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I'm working on a few other options.
He's going to add more platforms. See, that's what we're always doing. We're adding different things. We're doing different things all the time. We're excited to get the ice season going. That's why we're doing this podcast. We're starting it back up. We're going. We're talking fishing. We're talking hunting. We're talking with buddies. We're just having a good time. This is the Fish Addictions, the Real Talk. Now get out of here.